Okay, they're coming. Channel 6.
Okay, yeah, we'll just hold. Sorry guys, the ice everybody.
It's okay.
My name is Frederick Ingram. I am the Secretary-Treasurer of the American Federation of Teachers. The AFT represents Florida's teachers and school workers. And we're the largest segment of Florida's middle class and the largest segment of working people in the state of Florida. Today, we're here to call out a problem of systemic deregulation of Florida's home insurance industry that is crushing middle and working class Floridians from high prices and the out-of-control increases. In collaboration with Strong Economy for All, Hedge Clippers, and the AFT, we have produced a report that will show that the blame lies at the hands and the feet of Ron DeSantis and his big donor insurance industry lobbyists who are in each other's pockets and lining each other's pockets with Floridians' money. Today, we have assembled truth tellers from Florida across the country, local folks who have stories that can be told for far too many Floridians. And we also have leaders of our education unions from across the state and from across the nation. You'll hear from Anna Fusco, you'll hear from Roby Josie, you'll hear from Dora Lee Rice, Berticia Combs, you'll hear from Carla Hernandez-Matz, Frida Holland, and the International President of the AFT, Randi Weingarten. We will start with Anna Fusco, who is an elementary school teacher and president of the Broward Teachers Union.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anna Fusco, educator here in Broward County Public Schools, resident in Broward County, and I'm also the elected Broward Teachers Union president. We had this horrible natural disaster that happened a few weeks ago where the most unconceivable piece that happened that, our residents, our working class residents, large amount of our educators and our support staff saw the impact that happened with our families from the flooding, from people losing their homes, their apartments, whether it was actually a flood in their home or the roofs falling in or walls falling in, losing their vehicles, unable to get them back and forth to work, and dealing with understanding how they can lose time off of work and still able to make ends meet, of possibly not getting paid if their employers weren't willing to be able to help them. And then we have this problem where many of them didn't have insurance because of the high cost that has imploded on us here in Broward County. They had to make a choice, we're not going to flood. We're not in a flood zone, and I'm not going to have that type of insurance. Or there's this, insurance companies that don't even allow you to purchase it. So now they're figuring out, how am I going to make ends meet? And we have a governor that has making choices on regulating certain things that fit his needs, but not helping our residents, our employees that are here in Broward, and we see our families, our students that already have other situations that they're dealing with that impact them, and now not having a place to live or a vehicle to get them back and forth to school, and their parents getting to work. And that is a serious, serious impact that, again, our educators are dealing with it. I can tell you right now some stories that some of our educators themselves were affected, flooded out, and they still made it to work because they know they needed to be there for their students. They knew that they would be impacted. They knew that they would be harmed because they live in the communities that they work in. And if my home was flooded, if my car was flooded, then my students are going to be impacted. And I want to be there for them because probably mom or dad would find a way to get them there so they have a safe haven. And that's that safe haven, which is in our public schools. And then again, our governor is making choices to take money from these very own companies that are reaping the rewards, but are not helping when our working families, whether they're an educator or some other employment, but our students are in our schools, are not able to make ends meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and we appreciate that. Next, you'll hear from Roby Josie, who is an organizer for the Center for Popular Democracy.
Thank you, everyone. First, I want to thank the American Federation of Teachers for having me today and creating this platform for us to share our stories and the stories of our community. And thanks to all the partners, staff, and especially all the teachers that showed up to work that next day and supporting this work. My name is Roby Josie, and as a child, I spent a lot of time in shared housing until my parents were able to escape poverty themselves and rent to become homeowners themselves. I watched as they struggled every day to keep the house under the pressure of supporting 3 children, keeping up with rising taxes, and eventually just succumbing to the cost of living. They lost their home and had to move back to renting. I wish with all my heart that I could own my own home, and I promised myself that I would never let them take away my house like they did to my parents. I had no idea how much they struggled until I became a homeowner myself, and all of the different and difficult obstacles they would face. As a homeowner in Florida now, I have become all too aware of that struggle, and I understand how even the simplest of things can have a tremendous effect. Last year, my taxes and my insurance were a little under $2,000, and this year, due to the increase in property and insurance combined, my cost is over $4,000. That's double the cost of last year. My wife and I are blessed to be in a position where we're able to shift our finances around and be able to handle this blow. But if this was last year, before we would have had to rethink being homeowners. As an organizer for the Center for Popular Democracy, I have seen the impact that these policies are having on Black and brown people, not only in Florida, but all across the nation, and the need to take action to ensure that every person is able to have an affordable home. This report highlights some really, truly disturbing, disgusting connections between the insurance companies and Ron DeSantis, who is ignoring the needs of the people and lining his campaign pockets with insurance company money. This report shows that these are failed policies. My insurance is up. My cost of living is up. We are fighting to make sure that people, especially Black, brown, and poor people, are able to overcome poverty and to stay above poverty. And that's why I'm proud to join AFT and Florida Rising to fight back against these policies. We want to make sure that these policies do not translate into national policy. This has to stop here in Florida.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that we are making Florida sustainable and equitable and fair for everyone. Ron DeSantis' policies have failed me and my community, and we cannot allow these policies to be replicated on the national level. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Roby. And next, we will hear from Dora Lee Rice, a Sunrise, Florida renter who unfortunately lost her home.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here and believe in this making changes. Hello, my name is Dora Lee Rice, and this is Shirley Gassell. We're here to represent all the owners and renters of South Florida. I was born in the Bronx, New York, and I have been a resident of South Florida for the past 33 years. I have been a homeowner of 2 homes located in South Florida, which I lost both at in the crash of 2008. But I have been in 2008, and since then I have been a renter for the past 11 years. I work as a security guard in West Boca Raton for a big housing development that has 648 apartments just at one location. And since December 2022, I have seen over 130 apartments being vacant by families leaving due to high increase of, and the apartments are still vacant. Only the wealthy out-of-staters can afford these prices. The rents have gone up $500 to $800 in the last year, which have forced families out of their homes. Tenants are afraid, and that there will be more increases, and are trying to find alternative ways to live, seeking more work, or living with relatives, getting multiple roommates, or buying mobile homes, and worst scenario, relocating out of state, or ends up in the street as homeless people. What got us here is a tag team of home insurance industries and developer donors to politicians like DeSantis. Floridians, did you know tenants and homeowners need 2.6 jobs to afford on an average 2-bedroom, and over 2.1 million Floridians pay more than 30% of their income in housing? It's getting worse. In fact, because of DeSantis policies, many homeowners today will soon be renters tomorrow. This is a shame. Most people come here with a dream of being an owner to a home or to a condo. Last year I had good credit, and I wanted to buy a home for Shirley and I, but they were too expensive. House insurance and taxes have gone up 40%. And it has been cheaper to be a renter, even with the $150 increase to my rent, being that I've been there for so long. But live scale, it's been to California prices. We heard directly from my property manager. What got us here is a tag team of home insurance and industries and developers, donors to politicians like DeSantis. Homeowners and renters need and want relief. A recent November 2022 local Progress Impact Lab poll shows 8 out of 10 Floridians across parties support limiting rent stabilization, which I do not support. What we need is solutions like community land trusts for sustainable home ownership, as investments in public housing, and limits to rent increases and rental protection and guarantees. For Florida to be truly a free state in America, that means living with dignity and housing for all, homeowners and renters. DeSantis' housing plan is a race to the bottom of for all Floridians. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dorley, and thank you, Shirley. Next, we will hear from Britisha Combs of Florida Rising.
Hello, thank you for having me here today for American Federated Teachers Union, CPD, and Hedge Clippers. Proud to be a part of this report. So I'm actually here to speak on behalf, my name is Bertisha Combs. I'm the South Florida Regional Director for Florida Rising. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of one of our members that was not able to be here but wanted to share her story. Her name is Shalicia Mosley. 2 years ago, she noticed a leak in her living room ceiling, and she submitted a claim with her insurance. She got an estimate for repairs. And those repairs, the insurance sent out their inspector, and they proceeded to offer her a $7,000 benefit for her to have the repairs done, with her having a $3,000 deductible. And they said that that should cover her repairs. She got a second opinion, and it turns out it was like double that to fix her roof. So that, of course, that was more than what the insurance was willing to pay. She decided to decline the insurance offer and go ahead and take them to court, which she still has an ongoing issue right now today. In the last 2 years, her premiums have increased drastically. So what was once a $1,400 mortgage payment went up to a $2,200 mortgage payment, which she actually paid the last payment this month. So she had to get a second job so she can make that extra payment. And June 1st, she will no longer have house insurance. So they're canceling her insurance. She's still in litigation, is not able to get even somebody to come out and offer her insurance because of the pending litigation. So she will go into hurricane season with no insurance on her house, which is already leaking and has a mold issue that I don't even want to talk about. But these are the type of people that we've been trying to help push policy for at the state level against DeSantis and the supermajority that they have in the legislature. Earlier this session, we at Florida Rising introduced something called Wake Up Wednesdays, which we actually did to sound the alarm on the negative policies that the legislator was pushing, trying to say, hey, it's happening here in Florida, it could potentially happen nationwide. They passed a housing omnibus bill that may seem good on the surface, but it goes against the will of the voters in Orlando, where they approved 56% for a rent stabilization thing. It was on the ballot, it passed, and then it got preempted by the housing omnibus bill. They're in the process of passing legislation that will negate all the tenant protections that we've worked for the past year throughout the state. So people will no longer have 60-day notices before their increases go in, things like that. There's a lot of, in Miami-Dade, they'll get rid of the Office of Tenant Advocacy. There's a lot of tenant protections that were going to be in place that are going to go away. That's why we think this report is important, that we not only let the residents of the state of Florida know, but residents across the nation know that DeSantis is not good for our nation, and we need to let folks know the bad policies that they can push. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bertisha. We appreciate that. And next, we'll hear from a middle school teacher and the president of the United Teachers of Dade, Carla Hernandez-Metz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Carla Hernandez-Metz. I am a middle school teacher and the president of United Teachers of Dade. And today we're here doing what we do best every day, educating the community about what is happening. So it's not about the banning of the books or removing African American studies. It's not about how we censor education. This is not about how we take away workers' rights through taking away access to collective bargaining and unions. This is about how this impacts working day people every single day because this governor has sold out to money. This is about how he is able to attack companies like Disney, but then he attacks everyday people like us. So I'm gonna share 3 stories. First, I'm gonna talk about a business perspective. Our building, United Teachers of Dade, our property insurance went up more than 60%. It was a $12,000 increase from last year to this year. $12,000, we can afford it. Most people cannot afford that type of increment. So let me tell you a story of another family. Jose Carlos and Margarita, they live in Hialeah, retired. And we know that Florida is a state where a lot of retirees come to live and live their last years of life and enjoy what they've worked so hard for. Jose Carlos and Margarita, who live in Hialeah, parents. And I just found out because of the flooding that happened in Fort Lauderdale, in Broward, that my parents do not have homeowners insurance because they cannot afford it on fixed income. Those are my parents. That's our business. This is all right around me. The stories can go on and on and on and on because that's not even 6 degrees of separation. So let me tell you about my colleague, my friend, Tracy Ann Brown, a secretary. works for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. A few weeks ago, during Easter Sunday, her house burned down. No insurance. They couldn't afford it. These are real stories of real people that are in our surroundings, that are with us, that work with us, that are our neighbors. And this is what this governor and this state is allowing to happen to working people every single day, because they care more about their politics than real people. And we need to do something about it. This report that I encourage everybody to read goes in depth and it makes those connections. Where funding for political campaigns came from and the favors that they are doing for those political campaigns. Our people need to wake up. He is bad for Florida. He is bad for the entire country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carla. And now we will hear from Frida Holland, a senior citizen and resident of Riviera Beach, Florida, who is currently dealing with the direct impacts from the insurance crisis. Frida?
Hello, my name is Frida Holland. I'm 63 years old. My husband is 72 years old. And also my husband helped build Florida from Fort Lauderdale, Miami, all the way down to Vero Beach with his hands. If they didn't know, he worked with his hands. And to this day, he had a problem with his hands, his nerve damage from building. And he only worked that hard because God blessed us with 12 kids, which one is going on to be with the Lord. And now we currently have 20 grandchildren, which we're very proud of. And he worked that hard so that he could build a place for the children, and our children and grandchildren can inherit a place to call their own. And in light of this insurance crisis and stuff that's going on, they sent out a thing saying I needed to get a 4-point inspection. I did that immediately. As soon as I did that, right after that, they came out. They told me they were going to send it to my insurance company. I waited a few weeks. I didn't hear from them. I called them. I said, well, I called the mortgage company. They say they hadn't received it. I called the people that did the 4-point inspection to ask them, they haven't gotten anything, so how did it go with my roof? And they told me, call the people that did the inspection. I called them. They claimed they didn't know where the paperwork was. You sure you had a 4-point? I say, yes, I'm sure. I gave them $125 to do the inspection. Not only that, I gave them the person's name. I gave them the location, what time the man came out. And then she said, well, I'll call you back in a few days and let you know we found it because it got lost in the shuffle. I say, how can things like that get lost in the shuffle? Now, at this time, I'm already suspecting that something is going on that shouldn't have been going on. And then I waited for a while, called the insurance, the mortgage company back. They still haven't gotten that. Then I called the people back that did the inspection. And then I told her I had the name, I gave her everything, and then she said, oh yeah, we found it. I said, well, how come you haven't called? How come you didn't let me know? I said, because I'm dealing with a roof issue I need fixed. And she told me, well, we're going to send to your mortgage up. Then finally after that, time went on, my insurance was supposed to be renewed February 28th of that next coming year. They just dragged the thing out to the point to when my mortgage company called me, let me know anything, the insurance company wrote me a letter and dropped me. And then when they dropped me, I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, you done waited after my insurance that collapsed, and then not only that, they got their money. They took their money from my extra account to pay for it, but then they dropped me. Then after they dropped me, I called the mortgage company. They said, well, you got to have insurance on your house. If not, we're going to have to put some on there. And then when they did that, I said, well, where am I supposed to go? Who am I supposed to talk with? So I called around and I got some people. But then even after I got those people, it took a long, drawn-out thing, and they only wound up paying $8,000 for me to get a roof. Then I found out later that even that, I can't get insured with a partial roof. If I make the repairs, they're not going to cover my mortgage. They're not going to insure me. And then I ask them, well, what am I supposed to do? So I'll say this, Ron DeSantis, my husband worked hard to build that house. He worked hard to do what he did for our 12 children and our 20 grandchildren. We want to leave it as an inheritance, just as you leave an inheritance for your family. We want to be able to leave an inheritance for our children and grandchildren. We don't want to just have to live on the street somewhere or go into an apartment place. No. We want them to call that home. They play there. My kids went to school there. They graduated there. They got married there. And now all of a sudden now we faced with this problem. And it's wrong. It's wrong for you all to do that. It's wrong for people got to fight to get what's theirs, what's rightfully theirs. And another thing, I'm not selling. I get all solicitations every week, almost every other week. Do you want to say how you can stay there for a little while and as long as you need and we'll pay the closing costs? No. I want things to be done right so my children and my grandchildren can safely say and honestly say my parents, my grandparents left this to us. And we're not giving up. We're not surrendering. We're not going to give into it. And you all pass these laws and stuff that hurts people. How can you do that? Woe unto you. Because it's not good. It's not good to do people like that. For filth and lucre. For money. It's not right. And I just want to say that because that's something deep in my heart that I know is wrong. It's wrong. It's very wrong. I don't know how they sleep at night. I don't understand. How can you cross your legs, sit down and eat your dinner and not worry about these families that are being put out? How these people are suffering. It's not right. It's not right. And God be my witness. It's not right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And our final speaker before we take questions and answers is a young lady who needs no introduction but certainly deserves one.
Not so young anymore.
She is our leader and she is my president and our president of the American Federation of Teachers. And she is going to bring us some words regarding this report and regarding really what's going on in America and how this has a direct impact on what's happening on the millions and millions of Americans, or the possibility that this can have on those Americans around this country. So without further ado, the National President of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten.
I don't know how anyone can listen to these stories and not immediately say, what can we do about it to help people, to help renters and homeowners? I grew up in Rockland County, New York. A lot of my parents' friends and colleagues moved to Florida, you know, in their retirement age to, you know, because they thought they'd get a better life and a little sunshine. I started as a social studies teacher, a lawyer, and then a social studies teacher in New York City. Like our colleague who came from the Bronx, a lot of Brooklynites moved to Florida. A lot of people in America, one of the pieces of the American dream is home ownership. It is a sense of, you know, when the vets came back, the GIs came back from World War II, there was a sense of we need to get educated and we need to own homes.
One of the things we have tried to do over all these years, you know, something that DeSantis doesn't like either when we talk about this, is that there was real discrimination for a very long time against home ownership by people of color. And we have fought that in the Housing Discrimination Acts. And that is part of thinking about the impact of discrimination that some of us as social studies teachers teach in our classrooms, and that Ron DeSantis is trying to get us not to teach in our classrooms. So my job right now is simply connecting the dots. I spend a lot of time in schools across the country. In the last 2 years, I think I've been to 147 work sites from last April to now. 147 work sites. Spent a lot of time talking to folks, talking to our members, talking to folks in communities. And in Florida, I started hearing these stories all the time. Not isolated, but all the time. Stories you just heard today from everyone. And heard it with such repetition that I started saying to myself, like there must be something that's different. Because Florida, Louisiana, there are always flood zones. There's always hurricanes. And I did notice that right before his re-election, Ron DeSantis spent a lot of time dealing with a hurricane in southern Florida, but he spent no time after his election dealing with a huge flood in southern Florida in Fort Lauderdale. Notice that. But underneath all of this, that's how the origins of this report. Because, see it? Because we said to ourselves, what's going on here? Like, what's different right now that there is this level of loss of flood insurance and home insurance? Yeah, we know prices go up all over the country. And in fact, electric prices have gone up hugely in Florida. But what is going on in Florida that is different than other places? And this is what has happened. In Florida, Floridians now pay 3 times the national average for home insurance than anywhere else in America. The governor has supported every rate hike asked for by the insurance industry. This has led to homeowners insurance doubling since Governor DeSantis has been in office. The Governor DeSantis has opposed legislation that would lower home insurance. This is not a new problem. This came up. He has helped the insurance industry hike their rates, and he has opposed lowering the rates for people, real people who are standing here. And the governor has signed a bill that limited the ability of homeowners to sue insurance companies when they fail to pay legitimate claims, as we just heard right now. And then who is watching over? Who's the regulators? The governor has appointed insurance industry people to key positions on the Citizens Board of Governors that oversees the insurance industry. And instead of helping homeowners and renters that you see behind me, he has bailed out the insurance industry with over $2 billion of taxpayer money to provide them with reinsurance instead of making them purchase it in the private sector. And you wonder, why? Why not help Floridians? Why not help Floridians have the basic American has taken in $3.9 million in political contributions from the insurance industry, and the Florida Republican Party has taken in almost $10 million in contributions from the insurance industry. And it's all laid out in this report. So, Governor DeSantis, I know you're angry. I know you're angry about books, so you ban them. I know you don't like teachers, so you criminalize us and you hector us, and now you're trying to take our voice away. I know you don't like honest history, so you censor it. I know you don't like Mickey Mouse or Disney, so you go after that, your largest employer in the state of Florida. But really, how can you be so angry at homeowners? How can you be so angry at Floridians who are trying to have the American dream? Why don't you start helping homeowners? Why don't you start making Florida affordable? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from